Go ahead, put it on real tight. Hope you brought your best tonight. They say they got the fireworks, yeah, they say they got the show. Here around the chutes, you're the best, so let's go.
This is Texas Toast. I'm your host, Miss Helen. Kick back and enjoy as we toast the best from Texas. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Texas Toast podcast. I'm Miss Helen, and I am so pleased to welcome a couple of guests from, well, actually the Broken Spokes. I've got Brent and Josh here on the podcast. Hello, guys. How are y'all?
Howdy.
Great.
So good to have y'all. And of course, y'all are the 2022 Texas Country Music Awards Western Swing Band of the Year. Was so excited for y'all when you won the award. What did that mean for y'all?
It was really a shock, I think, a little bit, right? We were, especially given the folks that were nominated with that were finalists, to be able to kind of win the award against that kind of a field was really neat. And again, we were just kind of shocked because, early on in the process, we've always just kind of been we're just glad to be here, folks. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm,
we're just happy to be here. We're kind of standing in the back, and to be able to win was really something.
Well, you're working so hard and you've put together such an awesome album, your current album, Where I Went Wrong, which was named by Saving Country Music the album of the year. You've got a single out to radio right now, Moved into a Bottle. It is moving up, like it's bumping into the top 50. It was Texas Country Music Chart Song of the Week this week. But let's talk about the background on that, because actually that was a song that you re-recorded that was a crowd favorite.
Yeah, it was. It was actually a song that one of the first songs as a band that we'd really ever written. And it's always been kind of a live favorite. And we wanted to kind of recapture it as we are now with the band lineup and everything that we have together now, and make sure that song kind of got its due, its day in the sun to shine. And when we went in and recorded it, after listening to it, we knew, hey, we got to do this.
Yeah, it's great. So let's talk about, so you say it was one of the first songs that y'all wrote together. What was your concept behind it? Because I know it's been picked up in so many different ways about Moved into a Bottle. Josh, we know that.
Yeah.
So tell me about your thinking when you wrote that song.
I wrote it about 10 years ago, and I think it's one of those things, it's obviously kind of a breakup and moving on type song. It's something that I think a lot of people can relate to, whether you've actually been there or not, but the whole fact of like, you're starting from scratch, you're picking up, you're moving out, you're moving on, and you're kind of that depressing restarting phase of things, and that's about it. I mean,
how do we take that concept and make it a sad country song?
Yeah.
Well, it's an awesome song, and it's like when I listen to it, then like, because I was, previewing music, always, I Moved into a Bottle I was listening to months ago, but it's one of those that just sticks in your head. And it's a great song. So congratulations on the success of that. And you've been out on the radio tour also.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's been fun. That's one of the things with radio. I think early on, we were kind of like, is radio ever going to really play this? Do they really want to hear this kind of stuff? Because, you think about radio, right? And it's, you think about top 40 and things like that. And, when we spoke with Jen about it early on, when I first reached out to Jen's just been a friend of ours for a really long time. And I trust her and I trust her opinion. And I just wanted to kind of get an idea of, hey, Jen, what do you think of that? Because a couple of people had mentioned it to us, and she said, send it over. Let me listen to it. And she immediately was like, yes, it's going to be great. They're going to love it. Let's do it. We want to go. And I was like, well, okay, let's go. All right then. And the reception that all of the music that we released to radio has gotten has been another thing that's really surprised us. And I think it surprises us in the best way possible, right? To say, look, there are radio stations, there's DJs, there's people out there that want to hear what we're doing.
Yes, a lot of people want to hear what you're doing. And of course, y'all have been a staple and you have a huge following in the Houston area. I want to go back, since we're kind of working back, but Brent and Josh, y'all grew up together and played together as kids in a punk band.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. I wouldn't call it a successful punk band. But yeah, we grew up kind of listening to that kind of everything. We listened to rock and roll. Brent listened to a lot more country than I did growing up. but you know, we kind of saw eye to eye on the punk rock deal. And I think a lot of people always ask us, like, how do you go from the punk rock to the country thing? And as you dig a little deeper with some of these guys that are out today, it's a very common thing. I think a lot of it has to do with just the rawness of just pure music and kind of emotion and things like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Roots music transcends genre. If that
so then y'all kind of went your separate ways, and then y'all met back up, just kind of like it was a coincidence at a Kreger show.
No, we've been hanging out a little bit, and I reached out to him because I know that I was kind of getting back into the wanting to put something together music wise. I hadn't played in a really long time outside of just doing some acoustic shows here and there. Because again, I'd been working on the back end of this business for a little while, and you know, we got to talking, and he was just like, I said, hey man, I've gotten really into just like pure old school traditional classic country music. I'm really interested in maybe pursuing that in some way, shape, or form. And he's like, man, I just got a lap steel guitar. I've been listening to nothing but Hank Williams and Ernest Tubb and whatnot. And we said, hey, all right, well, let's get together and let's tinker around. Let's see what happens. And so I think that's where the band kind of started is, you know, we're both looking for a project we could kind of sink our teeth into. There was a little bit different that is music and things that we could get behind, but was still, let's just say, commercially viable, right? Things that we knew we could get booked. And that's how we kind of settled on what we do now.
So tell me about, were you going to say something, Josh?
Oh, I was going to expand on that a little bit. It was also kind of refreshing that the music industry at the time had kind of turned a little bit. You had a lot more independent artists out there, making, writing, and recording music even on their own and releasing it. And that hasn't been done on the mainstream side of things in a long, long time. So it was just kind of I guess invigorating to see that happening. And then we're like, well, maybe we could write some music that we like to play, that we want to hear, that may or may not be mainstream, but still at least there's a little bit more of a chance than there really ever has been in the music industry.
Well, it's so embraced. So tell me about the band and how y'all put all these musicians together.
Yeah, it's been a journey. I'll tell you that.
I bet.
With any
I bet.
Like there's 300,000 people that have played in the Broken Spokes, I feel like, in the past 10 years. But over the past 5 years, I think we've had the same core group of guys and girl.
Yeah, it's just taking time like any band, right? You have growing pains and you find good fits from a music perspective, from a personality perspective, because I think any musician that comes on here will tell you, part of being a musician is you spend most of your time just sitting around waiting to play or moving gear. It's not as much of the glamorous playing part. So I think that the more serious you get about this, it's got to be a good fit music-wise, but it's also got to be a good fit personality-wise if you're going to kind of make it through all this. And so we've kind of gone through a few folks here and there, but the core of this group has been together since probably about 2018, maybe late 2017. And that's really, I think, when we started getting a lot more serious about the original music and getting out of Houston to play and really moving the band forward.
Yes. And so the one thing that, obviously when you listen to your music, like, I mean, who can resist not drinking to honky tonkitis? And I also like Someday Not Today. Everything on the album is so good, but I can only imagine what y'all shows are like. I mean, I bet there's a lot of dancing, but y'all have been kind of tagged like the drinking band, like people want to drink when they hear their music, and it's just kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I think it does. I think we've always wanted to be, the goal of our band from day one and to this day is we want to be a live band. We want to go play live. So everything that we kind of do is in support of that goal, right? Of how can we play more often, play better shows, play bigger shows, play in different places as much as we can play. So, this band was built early on very much on getting our live product, right, to the level it needs to be to go stand on the stages with all of the artists that play here. I really didn't spend a lot of time, my background, just me personally, right? I kind of was a road guy. I worked a little bit with Max Stalling, Roger Krager, some of these guys in the Texas music scene. And so I kind of got to see from the back end what the product needs to be to say, if you want to go stand on that stage with those guys, this is what the product needs to be. So my philosophy early on was, let's just get the product here, and then all this other stuff will just take care of itself. And it's kind of the opposite when nowadays, right? It's really the opposite. So we've been trying to get our marketing, our I don't know what you want to call it. I've used the word the facade, right? that's probably a poor word to use for it, but all of that other stuff, the image, the marketing, the social media, all of those things up to par with where the music has been, so that we can kind of continue to grow, right, and do the things we want to do.
Well, you can tell in your music that y'all standards are high. And speaking of your imaging, I really like the album cover that y'all have.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Carlos Hernandez, an excellent Houston-based artist, friends of friends. Um, I think it was old bass player Lencho had thrown his name in the hat to maybe do some of the design. He's like, I'll reach out to him. Like, okay, cool. And at the time we were recording, and it was at during the pandemic and everything, and it was really exciting. I love his work. I've seen his work all around Houston in various just a lot of different aspects. But we got kind of towards the end of the recording, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm kind of busy right now." Like, "Oh no!" And then yeah, and then but he wound up, he was like, "How about this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that looks great." And I thought it looked great, and it turned out a lot of other people like it too. So been fortunate to have him.
Yeah, we thought, how cool could it be? The Houston band stepping up, doing good. Get the Houston artists to provide the artwork for it that's done good and done well, and we were just glad he could do it. And again, when we sent him everything, he was like, "Well, what kind of give me some ideas, right?" And it's art, right? So we can kind of give him some ideas, but at the end of the day, we're like, "Oh man, I really hope we like what we get back, right?" Because you can't really tell an artist what to do with their art. A lot of times, that's why you hire an artist, right? You want their interpretation of their art. And when he sent us the proof of it, everybody was like, "Man, this is exactly what we were thinking of." So it worked out all the way around.
So how long did it take you to record your album, and where did you record it at?
That's funny. Technically it took us about 6 or 7 years. I laugh.
Oh,
When we did that first little album, that's more almost like a demo, right?
yes.
We did that with Stormy Cooper here in Houston. Stormy's been a good buddy back from my Krager days, and we kind of did it, within 4 hours on a Sunday morning. And at the time, we're just like, we got to get something out, something that we need. And the whole time we're saying, look, we're going to get this out. This will help us, book a few more gigs, and then we'll come back and we're going to really do it right. We're going to do a real album. We're going to come back. And we kind of just started playing and playing and playing and playing and playing, and we never came back to it. And so as the pandemic was kind of winding up, we were like, look, we've got to get super serious about this. Ashley Morales with Encore Music Agency, she helps us with our booking. She had been on our case big time to get some new music out. And so fortunately, Kevin, our steel player, he owns and operates a studio, that Wolf Island recording studio out in Dayton, Texas. And so we got super lucky that he did that, right? So we could kind of come and go and do this in little bits and pieces as we needed, in a cost-effective way. And again, we tossed around different ideas. Do we try to bring someone in to produce? What do we do? And we're looking at cost, we're looking at reward. And at the time, we'd been playing a lot of these songs a lot live, and we said, hey, let's just try to go lay it down, do it ourselves. We're not going to be out that much financially if we just don't like it. And we might know, hey, we don't like it. Let's bring someone else in, or let's go to a different studio. And fortunately, like I said, after we did it, we were like, oh, this is, we think it's great. Now, sometimes, right, we'll see what you guys think, right? Because that's really what matters at the end of the day. But to see the reception it's got, the Saving Country Music reviews, all the kudos he's given us, it made us feel really good, because everyone heard what we wanted you to hear. We wanted it to come off that way, right? We didn't want it overly produced. We wanted it to be something where if you listen to it, it's almost like seeing us live, right? There's not a lot of bells and whistles on it. There's not a lot of things that we don't do live. And so we were hoping that would work. And it's been really cool to see that it has. Because you never know. I mean, in this day and age, right? I feel like we're getting back to where that's more of the par for the course. But as you know, right, there was a time where making albums was, you had to have, 15 different session players and different things. And if you didn't have an accordion on one song and this on this song, it just didn't keep up with the pace.
Right.
And I don't know exactly when that changed, but whoever the first one was that said, hey, let's just make a record like this, I'd like to give them a high five, because it helps us out big time.
Yes. Well, it's definitely a jewel, and it's so easy on the ears. It's so refreshing to hear. I just call it kind of like nostalgic, and just country, just
Right.
like makes you think about growing up and the stuff you heard.
Good. And I'm glad that you say that, because that's how I've kind of explained it with people, with the reception that we get. Like if we're at a live show, it spans kind of generations, right? So we'll have older folks, much older folks at times, come up out of nowhere at the end of the show and go, "Where did you guys hear that song? Holy cow, that makes me think of this and this and this. And man, that was so cool and neat." And then it spans all the way down to like the younger generation that says, "Hey man, this was just so cool. Like I could close my eyes and it felt like I was sitting on the porch with my grandpa."
Oh
Right.
my
And
gosh, that was
right.
exactly sitting on the front screened in porch
Yeah.
under the stars and listening to the crickets.
Yeah, or
Yes.
riding around in his pickup truck, you know what I mean? That, and he'd listen to stuff, and a lot of people be like, at the time, I just thought it was kind of lame, and in retrospect now, like that was the best of the best times, right? As you get older and you gain some life perspective, and so it's cool to hear that, right? Because that's kind of when we started this band, we didn't play a lot of country music, right? And so what we aimed to do was say, let's go in and let's learn the recipe of how they made this music in the very beginning, right? The purest, most simple form of it. Let's learn it inside and out. And then when we get to the point where we feel like we've kind of got our hands around that recipe, that's when we'll kind of figure out what's our voice with that. And I think that's where you hear in the album, right? Is we're trying to say, okay, this is kind of our version of the original recipe, right? We didn't want it to come off as ironic or anything like that, right? We're not looking to have a whole stage production with it. We really wanted to say there's got to be people that want to hear right down the middle, pure classic traditional country, but in a modern format, if that makes sense.
It does.
And the older
absolutely
stuff
make sense. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Josh.
the older stuff too. If you listen to the lyrics, it's real emotive. It has a lot of feeling behind it. A lot of it's sad. We even have some new merchandise. It's a koozie. It says "Make Country Music Sad Again." And you listen to the stuff today that's on the radio, and it's very, it's just pop, riding down the back roads with the beer and all that. And that's cool. It's fine if you like that. I like the older stuff. I like sitting down, listening to Ray Price records, and being like, man, that dude's pretty sad. It's pretty depressing stuff. And I think we kind of touch on that a little bit when we try to. It's hard to emulate, but that's one of the things I've really enjoyed about playing in this band is we're able to do those types of songs, and it's not about that trying to catch the latest trend of iced tea and drinking beer and the pickup truck songs.
That's why you're standing up, making country music sad again. Oh, that is epic. I gotta have one of those.
We heard our buddy Jason James say that one night. I don't even know if he remembers. I need to call him and say, "Do you remember when you said that one night?" But it always caught with us, and I'm like, you know what? That's a tagline I think a lot of us can get behind.
So let's talk about your shows and the different places that you go and play.
Yeah, we've been fortunate, man. We've gotten to play all kinds of different places. We've expanded out of Houston. We only really play in Houston, I'd say probably maybe 3, 4, 5-ish times a year outside of doing some private events. And we really tried to get into Austin, get into some of these other areas, Corpus Christi, Dallas, Fort Worth. Really we'll play anywhere they'll have us, honestly. And we've had some opportunity to go out of state. We haven't really pushed that too much yet because there's just so much to do here that we haven't done and gotten to do. And I would, like I said, before we ever went out of town, I wanted to make sure we owned Houston, right? We had a great fan base here. We could play here. We could do here. Once we did that, we said, all right, let's go to Austin. Let's go to San Antonio. Let's see if we can replicate some of that in some of those other areas. And so I think we're trying to do that across the state before we ever really spend too much time running around outside of state. But we're always looking for more opportunities to play. I mean, we need to do more in Dallas, Fort Worth. Jamie Richards, Jamie, I'm sure. He is such a good dude. He's going to give us an opportunity to go play a show with him up there in June. And we're just trying to get into any venue that'll have us and start building a crowd up there, because I know you had Matt Hillier on not long ago. I listened.
Oh, love
I like
Matt. Love Matt. Yes.
Who doesn't though? Honestly.
Oh, he's the best.
In every musical genre, right? There's artists that are just like, that guy rocks. And you know what? He does rock. But, he had given us an opportunity. We'd actually met him at one of Max Stallings' Valentine shows that we played on at Sons of Herman Hall in Dallas. And he said, he was like, oh my gosh, why have I never heard of you guys? Why is this? And we're going, I don't know, Matt. We're just not good at promoting, apparently, obviously. And he said, look, we're going to do some shows with 1100, right? I'm going to put you on a few. I'm telling you, we'll help you get started up here. I think people need to hear you. Great. And then COVID happened, right? And all that got wiped away. And when we turned around and COVID was everything was kind of starting to go back again, they were like, look, oh, we're doing our farewell tour. And I'm like, that is totally our band, where I'm like, the one band that really wanted to help us is now retiring. But he put us on a show, the show they did up at Lava Cantina, as part of that kind of little farewell group of shows. And we got such a phenomenal response from the audience that everybody was going, man, we want you to come back. And, it took us, I don't know, at that point, 6-8 months to get back up there. And so we've got people up there that want to see us. When we look at our streaming numbers, we stream better in Dallas-Fort Worth than we do in Houston, which is kind of odd. And so we've got to get back to getting up there and getting some of these places more consistent. Like, we've gone to Austin super consistent for 2-3 years, and we've got a great crowd there. But we've got to do better in Dallas-Fort Worth.
I'm sure you're gonna blow up there. I mean, I can't see
it's got such a great music scene that, you would think, but it makes it hard too, right? Because everybody wants to play there. There's a lot of great people already playing there. And so, we've talked a lot about this with how the music business, especially post-COVID, the live music business has changed in terms of how booking and all of that works with this whole industry top down. And it's made it at times difficult for acts such as us. But we're so hard-headed. We won't quit. We'll just keep beating on the door until either it opens or my knuckles are so bloody we can't beat it anymore.
I don't think you're gonna have to hurt those knuckles too much.
Well, I mean, you got the industry embracing us a little bit has been such a huge help, right? I've just, I've gotten a little tired of it because, again, at first it's cute, but after a while it becomes not so cute. But people always say, "You're the best band I've never heard of." And they're like, "You should put that on a shirt. The best band you've never heard of." And I'm like, I don't know that after a certain amount of time that's a compliment anymore, right? We could choose to take it as such, but I think it's more of an indictment on what we're doing to promote our music and get our name out there. And again, it's funny because, like, we've talked about, man, we need like management, but I don't know that we support management yet necessarily. So I was like, we need a management consultant that would say, hey, here is what you guys need to do and how you need to do it, and go do it. If we had something like that, I think we would benefit from it. But we've just learned a lot from just burning our hand on the stove, so to speak, right? Like any band.
Right.
And saying, hey, let's just go figure this out and see what works and see what doesn't.
Oh, I was going to ask you also, how did you come up with the name of the band, the Broken Spokes?
So we did loosely base it on, the bar in Austin, right? And naming a band is so difficult these days, any day, especially if you have a band, because you have everybody's different opinions and they're not necessarily wrong or right, but getting a band to agree on anything, like where to eat, can be an exercise in futility. But what we wanted to do is, if you know anything about the Broken Spoke in Austin, right, is classic place, been there, the exact same that it's always been forever. Everything in that neighborhood has sold out, right? There's literally condos and apartments on all sides of it, but they're kind of dug in saying, look, we're not moving, we're not selling, we're not changing. We do what we do, and we will do it in this spot until we can't do it anymore. And that was kind of the spirit of what we wanted to do, to say, hey, look, there's got to be people out there that want to hear this music this way, that still like the old stuff, that wants to hear the kind of the original recipe. And again, we're going to do it, and we ain't changing.
Awesome. Well, I know from myself and so many other people, we really appreciate what you're doing. And I can't wait to keep watching Moved Into a Bottle move up the chart. It's like so exciting.
Yeah, it is, man. And that's what we always thought is, is this song, man, it needed a wider audience, right? Just based off of the reception that we've always gotten from it live, and the little numbers we did streaming with it early on and on the original recording. But again, the band has matured and grown so much since that original recording, that we said, look, let's kind of recapture it as we do it live now, and let's give it its day in the sun, and hopefully, folks will like it. And the reception has been amazing.
Well, it's been great visiting with y'all. Josh, do you have anything else to add before we wrap it up?
No, I don't think so. Thanks for having us on. It's
been
definitely a pleasure.
Of course. It's been wonderful. So congratulations on the success so far. And I know y'all are going nowhere but up. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, Brent and Josh with the Broken Spokes.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing. We all appreciate it. And
thank you.
You're shining a light on a lot of great artists. And,
thank you.
And that's important. Without you guys, we couldn't do it.
I appreciate that.
And with
Thank
a
you so
heavy
much.
tongue, she knew where I was from. As she left, I dared to say, well, you can go to hell. Hell, I'll go to Texas. I've had my fill of every place but home.